Your life-changing money could be sitting in your basement as a dusty old object. A shipping box that would have been thrown out by many was kept by the owner of these vases. It turned out to be so valuable that its worth surpassed one of the vases. The vases were made by Tiffany Studios and purchased by the guest aunt during the Depression. Never did the guest think that the items would get the value that they did. The pastel glass got a value of $2,000 to $3,000, while the shipping box received $5,000 to $10,000. The paperweight glass, which was mostly sought after, valued between $50,000 to $75,000. And just when we thought that was all, the appraiser pulled out another piece called the lava vase. Its own value almost made the guest have a heart attack. The lava vase?
In a retail shop, could sell between $100,000 and $150,000.
Where's my brother? Wow.
During an interview, Joe Strummer took off his boots and gave it to the guest husband after he complimented them. Joe Strummer was the lead singer of the famous band The Clash. Back in the day, the guest husband started a rock and roll magazine called Take It, and he was opportune to interview Joe Strummer during the band's first U.S. tour back in 1979. The boots, which Joe had gifted her husband during the interview, had been left unworn for 35 years.
Everything makes sense. We have the photograph of your husband interviewing him,
Right.
which is really helpful because it establishes that he really did meet him.
In terms of the boots' value, it was between
$5,000 and $7,000.
That's pretty amazing.
This girl's grandmother purchased this sculpture because her son and grandchildren were intrigued by Greek mythology. The sculpture was made by Pierre-Emile Hébert.
But he is a well-listed artist, and he's what we call kind of a neoclassic artist.
It was a bronze sculpture of a Greek goddess, Thetis, which had won a gold medal in 1867.
This artist was quite well known for this.
The family might want to reconsider using this piece as a doorstop after it valued at
From $4,000 to $6,000.
Gosh. That's a doorstop.
That's a doorstop.
It's a doorstop.
Well, you better put it up on a pedestal now.
Should a wife be upset that her husband chooses to give their daughter his precious jewelry instead of her? This woman's father gave her his mother's diamonds, earrings, and a brooch that could be worn as a hairpin. Because of the jewelry's lack of hallmark, the appraiser guessed that it was made in Spain, where the owner's family was from.
These are not pieces that were made in duplicate or triplicate. These were one-of-a-kind pieces.
The cumulative value of $27,000 to $38,000 was placed on both pieces.
Wow.
The artist of these pieces is so popular, yet difficult to find.
Whenever I looked his name up in the Dutch 19th century Dictionary of Landscape Painters, he was nowhere to be found.
He goes by the name of A. de Groot. De Groot is said to be a Dutch painter who mostly did landscape paintings. The guest painting had scenes of the wintertime and the bustling city. The painting's smooth texture and lack of cracking hinted that it wasn't as old as the 19th century as earlier believed. Both paintings received $1,000 as value. Ever since her father brought home this bracelet as a gift for her mother, she has admired it greatly. Years later, after completing her PhD, her parents gifted her the bracelet. The bracelet was made by Spalding & Company, a jewelry company founded by Henry Spalding.
And opened Spalding & Company, a direct competitor for Tiffany & Company.
The stones which were used in the making of the bracelet were sapphire and diamond. These created a marvelous design round about the bracelet. With the fine quality of this bracelet, it's no surprise that it had a value of $7,500.
Oh, wow. And it's absolutely beautiful.
A mousetrap collector came in with a variety of mousetraps which he collected for 48 years. He showcased the different mechanical processes which the traps use to capture mice.
He would step onto that plate. So then it closes the door in the front So therefore, the mouse then has an opening to go into the side room.
One of the mousetraps, called delusional mousetrap, was made and patented in the 19th century. Having mice is every house owner's nightmare, and these traps do a great job of capturing them.
First of all, there's always kind of a race throughout history trying to design and perfect the perfect mousetrap.
The mousetraps had a fairly good value.
$1,500.
Globes dating back to the early 19th century managed to remain in good condition after so many years.
You know, it's amazing how much they knew of the universe and the globe in 1828.
The celestial and terrestrial globes were made by an English cartographer, John Carey, and they belonged to the guest father-in-law. The stand for the globes, which were made of rosewood veneer, were the original that came with them. Such wonderful old pieces are so delightful to see. Over the years, corrections were made to the globe as new discoveries were unveiled. These globes were
£30,000.
Oh, great. They'll have a heart attack.
Following the death of their boss, the parents of this woman were asked to pick any item of hers that they liked. They decided on a steamer trunk, which they had been using often for travel. The trunk was designed by Louis Vuitton, the worldwide known French luxury fashion company. It was produced in the 1890s with the early checkered design of the company.
And what's interesting is they've actually reissued the check design, and it's now more popular than the Louis Vuitton monogram.
We all know that original Louis Vuitton items aren't cheap, but what about antique Louis Vuitton?
If we were to insure it, you would need to place an insurance value of $20,000 or more on it.
You made my weekend.
Up until the day he brought his shade to the show, he never noticed the name inscribed on it. He had the shade in his possession since he inherited it from his grandmother in 1999. The shade was made by a company named Pearpoint, and its design was called Puffy Glass. After a thorough examination of the glass, it was discovered that the base was in a French style, which indicated that it wasn't made by Pearpoint.
In the 19th century, and then you have this wonderful puffy shade. So our thinking is that the two were put together at some point.
Nonetheless, the lamp's value was $1,500 to $2,000. She'll be glad she didn't chicken out of a dare to get an autograph from a worldwide known American activist. While on a stroll with her father in Puerto Rico, they stumbled across a hotel function where Martin Luther King was present. After informing her who Martin was, her father dared her to ask for his autograph, and she did.
Dr. King's signature, so historically important, is always going up in value. It's always in great demand, and you have an excellent, exceptional example.
Many years down the line, her autograph program turned into a valued item of $2,000 to $3,000.
It's so exciting to know.
The first edition of The Hobbit, which had all the features collectors look for, appeared on the show in 1990. It was brought in by the wife of the author's grandson. Hobbit was written by John Ronald Tolkien, a celebrated author popularly regarded as the father of modern fantasy literature. The guest copy of the book was handed down to her husband following the foreclosure of J.R.R.'s library where it was kept. It had all the sought-after features, like the dust wrapper, a letter from J.R.R. on the first page of the book, and a corrected misspelling of a name on the dust wrapper.
Tolkien, in fact, corrected this dust wrapper himself, or at least it is said that he corrected it himself.
The value of the book during the show was $3,500.
That is amazing.
It is, isn't it? Good.
I really am surprised to hear that.
Does Cassius Clay ring a bell? How about Muhammad Ali? The greatest boxer, Muhammad Ali, was born Cassius Clay before converting to Islam in 1961 and changing his name. When the guest was 8, Ali lived in the same neighborhood as him, and he often invited the kids to his house for hot dogs and Kool-Aid. Muhammad Ali, known as Cassius Clay at the time, had autographed one of his boxing promotions to the guest. Not only did he sign this picture, he signed it twice.
From Cassius Clay, so he twice signed this for you. He must have liked you.
Autographs of the boxer's birth name are hard to come by, making the guest item value at
$5,000 to $7,000.
No way.
Yeah.
5,000 to 7,000?
We'd
Wow.
insure it for considerably more. We'd insure it for about $10,000.
Not often does the Roadshow see cash sheets which were used in John Wayne's films, but in this episode, a man came along with various cash sheets and a photograph of the iconic actor. The man's father had worked as a film director in John's production company, Batjack.
Meanwhile, what you have is really interesting. They are the original cash sheets from each of these movies, and you have practically 16 or 17 movies.
His collection of cash sheets are valued at
$1,500 to $2,000,
while the photograph
bring between $150 to $200.
Oh, really? Thank you.
For 40 years, he was dedicated to collecting mourning jewelry, and on the Roadshow, he displayed the variety of jewelry which he acquired over the years.
An extensive collection here of many pieces that include hair and earlier pieces as well.
The jewelries were popularly used during the Georgian and Victorian period. During this time, people who were mourning their loved ones adorned their mourning clothes with these jewelries. With just roughly $6,000 spent to purchase these pieces, the owner reaped a huge profit with their jaw-dropping worth of
$70,000 and $90,000.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
It's a really impressive group.
This is the Mite Wurlitzer Theater pipe organ. This is located at the Alabama Theater. Built along with the theater in 1927, this beauty is affectionately called Big Bertha. This one-of-a-kind instrument is one of 17 of this model ever built. It was built to mimic a 40-piece orchestra and was not originally called an organ, but a unit orchestra. For such a rare piece, it is priced at $1,400,000. Next up is a Rolex GMT Master. The owner of this gem bought it 55 years ago in Germany, in Zweigerbrücken, at a PX when he was in the Army. It was manufactured in the first quarter of 1960 and purchased in April of 1960. It is the first model GMT Master ever built by Rolex, a model 6542.
On the box itself, on the edge of the box right here, we have the reference number of the watch.
This gem comes complete with every documentation as well as the original box. What could the price of this watch be?
But this watch is worth much more because you saved the box and all the paperwork for it. Easily today, it's $65,000 to $75,000 in the market.
That's some price for a watch bought for $100.
I'm speechless.
One look at this yearbook, and one wouldn't think it's a normal yearbook. But this is the senior graduating yearbook from the class of '43 for Eastside High School, Paterson, New Jersey. A closer look, and you would see it was signed by the historic Allen Ginsberg, an American poet and writer. Allen Ginsberg was known for his unique poetic style. He was also the class poet, with this poem written by him in the yearbook. This book, which seems worthless, has value so high it will leave you shocked.
I think with this additional poem he wrote to you, I think this would retail for $10,000.
Oh my God. Well, maybe it's not going back in the closet. I don't know.
Next is some German handmade baby clothing from the 1920s. The details on this piece are not one to ignore.
There was something incredibly special for this to be the one thing that she wanted to grab. They're hand knit. This is not usually an American style of workmanship. This is a European. And we see a lot of beautiful beadwork on top of needlepoint. It's called Berlin work that actually came from Germany.
It's called Berlin work that actually came from Germany and is usually seen in knitted bags, but never in a form like this. The most fabulous is this large bonnet with the handmade lace and roses. This beautiful collection goes for between $1,500 and $2,000. with the little jackets valued at $150 and $200. The small bonnets and the damaged are valued at $75 to $100, and the large bonnets would go for $150 to $175.
It's a lot for baby clothes, don't you think?
It is a lot for baby clothes.
As said by the owner, this filthy dirty work of art was drawn by Alphon Wald. Alphon had a unique form of art that was widely admired. The guest has owned it since growing up.
I've enjoyed it just as part of growing up and as part of my bedroom.
At some point, the owner thought it was a tourist souvenir that wouldn't be very valuable. It comes with its original frame, which amazingly adds more value to this piece. How much is it worth, you may ask?
If I were to put an auction estimate on it, I'd put it at $200,000 to $300,000.
Oh, that's terrible. Oh, it was such a nice picture to just sort of have around.
We have letters from the late 1930s written by Jackie Robinson, and these personal letters were written to his friend, the guest father. Jackie broke the color barrier in the world of baseball in 1947, but these letters predate that significantly. The content in these letters is personal, like one would write to a friend or pen pal. This complete collection was appraised at between $15,000 and $20,000.
Whoa, really?
This is a 1921 Boston Marathon medal. It belonged to the guest grandfather, who finished in 8th place in the Boston Marathon in 1921.
At the time that he was competing in the Boston Marathon, that's the infancy for the Boston Marathon,
Yes,
which is
why
we were interested in this medal that you brought in
Yes.
today. The Boston Marathon, of course, was first run as the Boston Marathon in 1897.
His name was Otto Lakeso. On talking with other appraisers, this is the first Boston Marathon medal ever seen. This medal is 10-karat gold and was made by Degas and Clust. Guess how much this priceless piece cost?
We discussed it, and we would put an estimate on this for insurance value at $1,500 to $2,000.
Really? Oh, wow. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have the German porcelain passed down through generations, inherited from their father-in-law, who was born in the 1890s.
The German porcelain, and they were made for children as gifts.
Children's wear was often treasured and very rare and quite inexpensive too. You can buy not just sugar bowls and creamers, but plates and little cups too. These, however, are decals and transfer prints. You can see the delicate decorative elements of this porcelain. Guess how much this delicate piece of art goes for?
The pair of them in a good antique shop would certainly sell for about $150 or perhaps as much as $200.
Okay.
Now we have 20th century railroad china plates. Our guest got these at an auction.
Went to this auction and there were these plates, and I thought, well, that might look good in my breakfast room kitchen area.
Each piece is unique with individual brands. First is the Milwaukee Traveler for $75 to $100. Next one is made by Buffalo Pottery and sells for $100. Last is the Missouri Pacific plate, which is rare and sells for...
This particular plate, given its rarity, at auction these days, would probably sell between $700 and $800.
Holy crap. Holy moly.
Can you imagine?
Jeez.
We will now look at an elevator grill from the Chicago Stock Exchange. It was salvaged from the crumbs of the Chicago Exchange in the 1960s.
He and his fellow art students went to salvage pieces like this, and it made its way down to St. Louis then.
The building this piece belonged to was later torn down 10 years later. This is what the appraiser had to say about this piece.
It's one of the most fantastic pieces of interior architecture from that later part of the 19th century. It was done in 1894.
This came from an earlier renovation when they were tearing down the building. In terms of value, it's worth $30,000 to $40,000.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Let's look at the money box next. It is an unusual money box shape named the Elephant with 3 clowns.
Most of the money boxes were produced in America and were then exported or brought in to this country by people who traveled overseas.
Most money boxes were produced in America and exported or brought into Europe. One look at the quality of the casting and the absolutely delightful action, and you will see why these money boxes are popular among collectors. Let's see how it works.
You put 1 penny, balance it just there. That's it.
In?
Yes.
This beautiful antique sells for £400 and £600 at auction.
Oh.
Next is this outstanding collection of snuff boxes. They were made in Paris in 1784. They belong to the Guest family and have been in the family for quite a long time. It has thousands of little tiny marks, which some are obscure. This particular one is called the Poinçon de la Maison Commune, which is actually the Guild of Paris Goldsmiths. Let's see the price of these 18-carat antiques.
I imagine that the value of this is probably something in the region of £10,000.
Our guest brings an Olympic gold medal all the way from 1986, owned by Carl, who was on the first U.S. Olympic basketball team.
That was one interesting part of that game, was that it was a low-scoring affair. At 19-8, the USA defeated Canada in the gold medal game, and it was played in a heavy rain.
They traveled on a steam train and can be seen in this photograph here. The medal, which says Berlin 1936, was awarded to part of the USA basketball team. This is truly a rare jewel.
Well, we've had a lot of discussion on this today, mainly because we couldn't find any other examples that have come for sale.
As to the auction price,
our opinion at auction for the gold medal, we would expect it to sell for between $25,000 to $35,000 at auction.
Oh, wow.
Now we have this very fine quality Continental porcelain vase. This piece is dated 1830 to 1840.
Would have been a pair originally.
It is a pair.
It's still a pair.
It is a pair.
Oh, good.
It is in perfect condition, although it got a knob cracked and a tiny damaged top. There's also a slight chip that can be seen here, but otherwise in perfect condition. You can also see the elegant painting of a nice harvesting scene with a girl and a dog. How much can this gem possibly be worth?
I think somewhere around £1,800 to £2,500. Pleased?
Oh, I'm absolutely staggered.
Finally, we have a pre-Columbian Peruvian collection, believed to be made up of costume attachments, some deities, and burial masks. The guest grew up in South America and lived in Lima, Peru. These items belong to the guest's father, who started the collection process in 1957. You won't believe how much this gem is worth.
Assuming that everything that I said is legitimate, conservatively, you're looking at $50,000 to $100,000.
That's incredible.
Stay tuned to our channel for more.